Sharing my screen also. Okay, so last week we have stopped at the concepts of deadlocks, right? I was showing you the pictorial diagram how the deadlock occurs, like more than one thread. Okay, there are two threads. Okay, and the two threads are looking for the couple of resources. So if one thread wants to complete their set of execution, they need to hold resource one and resource two as well. But in the multi-thread environment, okay, so if thread one is locked resource one and trying to lock resource two, but what happened is another thread is already locked resource two. So thread one is waiting for the resource two to complete their work so that they can release resource one as well. But thread two is looking for locking the resource one so that they can do the work and they can release resource two. It's like, that's what we call, right? It's a deadlock. Nobody is able to move forward because one is waiting for another resource. Okay, so just to give like how the situation can occur. Okay, I have taken one small example. Okay, here, uh, see there is a bank. Okay, and in the bank we are trying to do a account transfer. Okay, and for the account transfer I am using a couple of methods. Okay, the method is basically withdraw amount, okay, and deposit amount. Okay, two methods. And since I need to do the account transfer from one account to another account, okay, and I am trying to log those two objects. That way, once I log the accounts, I can do the actual transfer. Okay, so if you see here, thread one, thread two, okay, so I have two methods. I have two accounts. So you see, it's a from account to account. Okay, so two methods. Okay, so same thing happens for thread two also. Okay, now let's see like so let me explain how this works. Okay, if you see the account.cs file, I have the account class which contains a couple of members. One is account ID and one is the account balance. Okay, I have one constructor to store the account number and balance, and the two public methods. One is to withdraw the money, one is to deposit the money. So withdraw money, it will reduce the balance by the given amount. Deposit money, it will increase the balance amount by the amount we pass as a parameter. So two methods, withdraw and deposit. Account ID and the balance is the data members of the account class. And if you see here, I have one more class, account manager. Okay, here I'm using from account and to account and the transfer amount. It's basically to transfer the amount from one account to another account. Okay, and I have the constructor. Okay, it is basically accepting the from account to account and the amount to be transferred. Okay, in the three different variables. Okay, and here in the actual in the fund transfer function. Okay, if you see here, I am trying to log the from account. Okay, and once I acquired the log on the from account, I'm trying to do the locking on the to account. Okay, so from account and to account. Okay, I purposefully made some sleep here to create the deadlock scenario. Okay, so let's see how it works. So here in the main program, I have created the two objects, account 1001, account 1002, and I am passing that like the account number and the balance. Okay, then I have a thread. Okay, if you see here, the account manager class, I have created one object for account manager, and this account manager I am passing as a parameter for the thread one. So T1 thread and T2 thread, two threads, and I'm starting two threads here. Okay, so if you see here, so two threads started invoking at the same time. Okay, so if you see here, so first main thread started. Thread 1 is trying to acquire the lock. Okay, thread 1 acquired lock on the first account. Okay, and it is doing some work because I kept some sleep right here, so it is doing some kind of work. Okay, and now thread 2 started. It is trying to acquire the lock on account number, second account number, and thread 2 acquired the lock on the second account number, and thread 2 is doing some work. So here the first thread had a lock on 1001, second thread has a lock on 1002. Now thread 2 is trying to have a lock on 1001 and thread 1 is trying to have a lock on 1002. So they are able to acquire. Okay, if you see here, thread 1 is able to acquire 1001 lock and waiting for 1002. Okay, and T2 had a lock acquired lock
This
on
call will be
1002.
monitored and recorded, and your voice may be used for verification.
Okay, so
Welcome to Chase. Para español, oprima el asterisco. Please enter your debit card,
Vamshi.
account number, or user ID, followed by the pound key.
Okay, so I have muted. So basically here, thread 2 had a lock on 1002 and waiting for 1001. So basically in order to perform the account transfer, I need lock on both the accounts. But here I have a lock on 1001 and I'm waiting for 1002. But 1002 has been locked by thread 2 and waiting for 1001. So it's a clear cut of deadlock. So if you see what's happening right now, it is not moving forward. It is just waiting for the lock to be obtained. Okay, so you cannot move forward. The program, the application is frozen now. You cannot move a step ahead. Okay, so this is called deadlock. So how do we get rid of this deadlocks, right? So this is a real-time scenario which can occur, right? So in order to avoid this kind of deadlocks, okay, we have a, let me show you. Okay, there is a one thing called monitor.try_enter. So now you know that monitor class enter method is used to, okay, to initiate or to start the thread, right? So same way, if you say try enter, so try enter means apart from it is it is if there is a log on a particular object, okay, normally if you use monitor.enter, if there is a log, okay, it will simply come out. But if you use monitor.try_enter, that means what happens is if there is a log on a particular object, okay, instead of coming out of that particular scenario, it waits for some time. Okay, it waits for some time to see whether you will be able to get a lock or not. If I say monitor.try_enter, let's say 1 minute or 5 seconds, it will wait for that particular amount of time to see if I'm able to get a lock or not. If I'm able to get a lock, okay, I will proceed forward, perform the actual, the transfer, then will come out of the, the critical code section. But in case if there is, still lock is there and the 5 seconds or 1 minute is over, right? What happens? It will simply, close that. It will release the object. Okay, so if you see here, here you had a lock on 1001 and you're trying to get a lock on 1002. Okay, here if you see try.enter, right? Try enter. Okay, if you say like 1 minute, what happens? This particular thread 1 waits for 1 minute, okay, to get the lock on 1002. If it is able to get a lock, it will perform the actual logic and thread 1 will be closed, so the locks will be released. But even after 1 minute or 5 seconds, the lock we are not able to obtain. What happens is thread 1 will be automatically closed. So when it closes, it will release the lock on 1001 automatically. Right? When the thread is over, the locks will be automatically released, right? So that means, you are, you waited for 5 seconds. Okay, you're not able to get a lock on 1002. Okay, let's close this thread 1. So it will release the lock on 1001 so that thread 2 can come and get a lock on 1001 and complete their particular transaction. So try method dot try enter is the one you have to use in order to achieve, okay, data lock issues or data lock to avoid data lock scenarios. Okay, let me show you one example. So it's the same program I'm using. I haven't modified anything except, okay, except I used this try enter. Okay, if you see here, see I had a lock on the from account. Okay, and for the second account, okay, I said instead of enter, I said monitor try enter. You try to log to account. Okay, you wait for 3000 milliseconds. Okay, it is asking to wait for 3000 milliseconds. If you are able to, if you are able to get a lock, you do the actual transaction like withdraw and deposit. And if you are not able to do the actual transaction, simply come out of the loop. So it will, once it is over, it will, the lock will be automatically released. So it's a monitor dot try enter, the object you're trying to lock and the number of milliseconds you wanted to wait to get the lock. So if you say here, okay, trying to run this, happen. Okay, it's taking time. Okay, see, sometimes it happens. Okay, if you see here, right? Okay, thread 1 and thread 2 started. Okay, this is, basically both the threads almost started at the same time, right? So thread 2 is, waited for 3000 milliseconds. It couldn't get a lock and released, and it is came out of the critical code. And same thing happened for thread 1 also. See, this can happen. Why? Because see here what happening, both the threads started at the same time and they are waiting for 3000 milliseconds to get the lock. But since thread 1 and thread 2 it's almost started at the same time, okay, so they both were, waited for 3000 milliseconds, and since they were not able to get the lock, it simply came out. So in this case what happened, we did not had anything bad happened. Okay, at least there is no data corrupted here. It's just that, like, not able to get a lock and simply released, and we were not in a hung situation, right? Previously we were hung, we were waiting for the lock, but here we tried, we couldn't get it. Okay, that's fine. Okay, we just simply came out and the program completed. Okay, but if you try to run this like multiple times, okay, okay, sometimes you may get that, like no, you will be able to, one thread will be able to obtain the lock and will be able to close it. Okay, let me close it and will show you, because this can happen. Okay, it's a, but the good thing is that, like, it's not a deadlock scenario. Okay, we were able to gracefully end the methods. Just wanted to show you that, like, because now we were seeing at the other scenario, right? I wanted to show you that it will work. Deadlock resolution. Okay, let me do this. Hmm. You need to keep trying this multiple times. That way, like now, at least one thread will try to get the lock. So I have already shared this code. Try to run multiple times. Okay, definitely you will get a hit. Like now, one time the thread will be able to get a lock. At least one thread will execute. Okay, so this is about the deadlocks. Okay, and the next important concept is about the win forms. Okay, so guys, if you see like Windows, right? Okay, if you see you know everything is like you have this a form. Okay, you have some set of menu options. You have this like to close the window. Okay, to restore or to minimize. Okay, and you have lot many. So anybody has familiar with the Visual Basic? Anybody at least saw any screens or any application built on Visual Basic? Okay, so basically WinForms is basically to create the Windows like applications. Okay, it's, if you see like whatever you see, right, it is a Windows application, right? Because how you can say Windows application, it has a form, it has this different menu options, and right side you see this the minimize button and the restore button and the close button, right? So this is called a Windows, right? So if you want to build this kind of applications, Windows based applications, okay, we normally, I mean, the .NET provides the WinForms. Okay, so using that the framework, you'll be able to build the Windows based applications very rapidly. Okay, so if you see, so far like we have been executing the programs which are based on the console applications, right? Console. Okay, basically you launch the command prompt and you enter something on the command prompt and it will execute the program. But in the real world scenario, right, normally actual end users do not use the command prompt. Okay, they wanted a a rich graphical user interface where they can see, where they can enter the values, where they wanted to see the updates. It's all on the a graphical user interface. So if you wanted to build a graphical user interface applications, normally we use Windows Forms. Okay, so Windows Forms, if you see the create new project, right? So here if you see, there are a couple of things: Windows Forms app, Windows Forms app, .NET framework. Okay, so this is basically, you can use any one. This .NET framework is specifically for the window. It runs only on the Windows OS, but this Windows Form app is, it's a .NET Core application where it can run on any different any OS, machine independent. Okay, so you can use any of these two: Windows Form app, Windows Form app, .NET framework. Okay, but in case like sometimes you may not be able to see this because you may not have installed these particular components when you installed Visual Studio, in the initial days, right? So if you don't find this Windows Form app or Windows Form app .NET framework, right? Okay, you have to install that particular DLL. So go here, install more tools and features. Okay, so this is the one you need, .NET Desktop Development. Okay, so this is since I have already installed. Okay, it is showing my check mark. Okay, if you don't find, you click on this check mark and say like modify. If you click on here, right, it will say modify. So click on the modify. That way it will install this particular component, and when you relaunch Visual Studio, you'll be able to see this. Okay, you'll be able to see this. Okay, so you can take any one. Okay, Windows Farm app or Windows .NET framework, and just type. Okay, let's say WinForm example. Okay, so once you start Windows Forms type, right? You see automatically one form launched here, right? One form. Okay. And if you see, right, see, you have not started any kind of coding, but it is already showing one form here, right? If you just go and run it, I'm not doing anything, go and run it. Okay, you see, you have not written any program, but you just had one form with the form name, and you have the default buttons, minimize, okay, and restore and close buttons. So you see, this is the beauty of the WinForms. There are hell lot of classes available in WinForms, and you can with very less time, by spending very less time, you can build a solid graphical user interface applications. They are mostly on the Windows. Okay, so you see, these are Windows. See, guys, there are two different kind of applications nowadays. You see, one is Windows applications, where you have to install this particular exe in your client machine, so they can click on the exe and they can open the application. Okay, it is a Windows based application. Okay, you have to install on the client's machine so that they can launch the application and they can start using the application. It is a Windows application. Another application is, it's a web-based applications, right? Google, it's a web-based application, right? You don't need to install anything for Google, right? It's a web, it runs, it uses web browser, right? So predominantly in the .NET framework and the .NET world, you have predominantly these two kind of applications. If it is, I mean, if the application is very old, chances are fair that those programs are on the Windows applications. But in the latest world, everything is on the web. Okay, so they try to use the web application that so that they can launch using any kind of browsers. So, but this is like, the WinForms is predominantly used for building the Windows applications, which needs to be installed on the client machine. Okay, so I just, we are in the launching, right? I just, let me close this. So what I'm trying to say is that, like, no, it's very easy to build a good looking user interface using WinForms. Okay, so how do you do that? Because right now I have not, given anything, right? So how do you build, like, we have a lot many options we can use on the screen, right? You have menus, you have, you see this. Okay, how do you build this? So there are already, by default it is giving some options, but how do you add more controls to these forms, right? So here, look here, once I have my WinForms framework or the program launched here, right? You see here, previously on the console application, you could see only one program.cs, but now you have form1.cs, right? Because this is the form1. Okay, and here in the, here you see the properties. So let's say this form1 is a class. Imagine form1 is a class, and sorry, our form is a class, and form1 is an object. Okay, and each object has set of properties, right? The properties you could see here. Okay, you see here, they're all the properties. Suppose I wanted to change this form name to a different name. You can modify here. Welcome to WinForms. Okay, you see here, it modified welcome to WinForms. Okay, and you wanted to change the background color. Okay, okay, you can change the background color. And so these are all are like, kind of the properties which are available for this particular form. Okay, you can change whatever you wanted to change here. Okay, so background color, foreground. Okay, font also, if you want to change the font, you can change the font. So you can just keep it anything you want. Okay, and font color. So this is about the basic, the core form actually, right? This has a form, but obviously this is okay. And one more thing is, so two things you have to remember. One is about, where did I modify here? The text, right? Text is to display on the here. So basically you're displaying some value on the text for this particular form, right? That is called text. But if you want to refer this form in your programming, right? Okay, you can modify. Right now by default it says form one. You can say like, anything like, my win form, something you wanted to refer. Because like if you wanted to code something on this form, right, you have to refer this particular name. So it is only for the backend, our development purpose. For the front end guys, I mean for the end user, they see only this one, welcome to WinForms. But if you want to code as a programmer, you have to use this one, my WinForm. Okay, so fair enough. Now you have a form with some title, with some decent some color. Now you wanted to add some text. Okay, you wanted to add some text on this form, right? So here if you want to add a text, okay, you need to use the toolbox. Okay, toolbox can be obtained here. You see view toolbox. You see view toolbox. So once you click on this one, right, it will show here. See the toolbox. Okay, toolbox, and you see lot many things here. Okay, so first your intention is you wanted to print some text on the form, right? Okay, so if you want to print some text on the form, you have to use a control called label. Okay, you go here, either you click and drag and drop it here. Okay, or okay, if you want to go to toolbox again, you have to go to here toolbox here. You see here toolbox. Okay, so you can go and drag and drop, or you can simply click on this, double click. You see, first I did a drag and drop, second one I double clicked. Okay, but I don't want a label too, so I just only I'm deleting this. Okay, so now you have one label here. Now one label here, and once you see this label, right, again you see the properties right side. You see the label one. Label one by default it says label one. Okay, and you can modify whatever you see text is there. You can modify. I'm just typing something. Welcome to WinForms programming. Something. Okay, and here you can move it to anywhere wherever you wanted to change. Okay, if you see here, you see this the size or the location. This will change. You see this is getting changed. Basically, location is where you wanted to show on the screen like this. Okay, you can move it like this anywhere. And suppose you wanted to make it a different font. Okay, let's use a different font. Okay, and you are not happy with the color, change it. I don't know why it's oh, cannot use this, right? Okay, and now let's try to run. Okay, you see, so this is what, like, when the end user launches the application, this is what they see. It's a Windows based application, similar to Windows. Okay, with all the default buttons, and now I had one text here to display, so I just mentioned this, and if you close it, it will automatically close it, right? So this is, so if you want to display something, normally use this called labels. Okay, label is basically to display something. Okay, suppose let's say you want something to be entered by the user, right? Now normally, you know as a end user, if they want to perform something on the application, they have to feed in some values, right? So if they want some value to be entered, for that they use text box. Okay, you see here when you see this down here, let's read this tooltip. Text box enables the user to enter text and provides multi-line editing and password character masking. So basically if you want to enter something, right? So I will say here, again, I'm just dragging and dropping here. Okay, so this is what basically to enter the value. So here again, once you click on this, right, text box 1, by default text box 1 it comes and shows the properties. Okay, so again I'm using label here because so this doesn't give like what exactly you wanted to enter, right? So I will use one label here. I will say label here. Okay, and here, okay, sorry, here I will say enter a numeric value. Okay, and I will move here. So here this is a label where to display the value, and this is a text to accept the value. Okay, and for this right, because now you have to refer this, because once the user enters some value on this text box, you have to catch that value programmatically, right? Okay, so for that you have to use this name text1, right? I will say text1 or number text1 something. So if I want to use the value from this here, I have to use num text1. Okay, so fair enough, you have a label, you have a text box, right? Now something, you predominantly you use the buttons, right, in the Windows world, right? If we say, right, if I try to open, okay, you see this is a kind of a form here which shows all the values. Okay, and you can select here, right? And this is what is this open and cancel. These are two are the buttons, open button or cancel buttons. So if you want this kind of buttons, right? Yes, we have one more control called button. You see here button. Right? So again, if I see guys, if you see this right side, right now on the button 1, and if I click on this label, it shows the label 1 properties. If I click on the text 1, it shows the text 1 properties. Okay, and if you see here, it shows everything. You have one form, okay, one text box, one label, one button. So you can go and here also you can select the label or the text box, whatever you wanted to. Okay, another way is you just go and highlight, click on this. Okay, here button 1, right? So text, I'm changing something like click me. Okay, and again, if you want to refer this button in your programs, you have to use this one. Okay, okay, something called like button click something. Okay, so if you just start clicking, start launching, it will show all these three different controls now. One label, one text box, and one, if you see this is the, when I'm trying to click this button, because I have not written anything right here. Right now it is empty. I have not coded anything to be done when somebody clicks on. So I can enter some value, okay, but I need some kind of logic to accept this value, right? So I have not coded so far. So that's why I'm not able to do anything here. I can only just enter some value and some click on. Nothing gets executed. Okay, so now since I have introduced this a label and one text box and one button, right? Okay, let me show you one example. Okay, and here before that, like if you see here, right, when you double click here, right, it will take you to the methods which are available for that particular button or label. You see here, what do you want to do when the label 1 underscore click? when you click on the label one, you want to do something, right? You can write that code in this method. And when button one dot click is there, so you want to do something when the button one got clicked, right? You can write the piece of code here. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that, like, that is design. So these are all the objects. This is the label object, text box object, and button object, right? So for all these three kind of objects, we have the properties where you can see here, okay, because every object contains data members and methods, right? So you see all these properties here as a variables, and you also have the methods. So you can override your own method and perform whatever the work you wanted to achieve. Okay, so now let me show you some simple programs. Okay, don't want to save this. Okay, if you see here, design. Okay, so you see here, I have a form. I'm slow. Let's okay. So here I have a form. Okay, and this form I have changed my text name to mini calculator. Okay, and I have not changed anything else. I only changed the title of the form. Okay, and I have couple of labels, value one and value two. You see value one. Okay, the text is value one. Okay, the label name is label one. I have not changed it. And the second one is label two. Okay, the display I have modified to value two. Okay, and the name I haven't changed it. Name is still shows. What happened? Label two. Okay, it is in the name. Okay, and I have two text boxes. Text box one, you see, I have, since text box there is nothing we have to display, it's only the blank, right? Okay, so text is blank here, and the name of the text box I mentioned as text number one. Okay, and so for the second text box I said text number two. Okay, and then I have one button called calculate, and the text of the button I have made it to calculate text. Okay, and the name of the button is button one. Okay, and if you see right now, I have increased the font for all these to make it bigger. Okay, so that's why, like, now you see this is 16 pointer. Okay, so fair enough. You have two labels and you are asking the user to enter a couple of values in the text box. And once they click on the calculate, you wanted to display something, right? So if you see, double click on this calculate. Okay, so the button one is my button, and I said, like, execute this piece of code when there is a click event. Okay, click event. When the button one dot click, perform this piece of code or execute this piece of code. Okay, so what I'm doing here is, okay, I'm accepting these two numbers. So text number one and text number two are the text boxes. So since by default, okay, we get the string values, so I'm converting into a integer values, storing in num1 and num2. Okay, and I'm just calculating the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Okay, and you see I have like 4 different labels. Okay, 4 different labels. I will show you like no, I haven't shown actually 4 different labels I have created. This labels is okay to display the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. I said add label dot text. Text is to display, right? So to display these values. Okay, if you go to the designer class again here, okay, see here right side you see right here. See we have button 1, we have form 1, we have label 1, label 2, and text number 1, text number 2. But I have created 4 labels: add label, division label, multiplication label, and subtraction label. There are 4 more labels are here available. But since if you see here, right, add label, you see there is one add label. But for the label, I said text, I have not shown anything. You see here, but I purposefully hidden this. I don't want to display anything here. Okay, that is for the add label, right? And as you see the division label also, see there is one more label here. Since I made it as a blank, it is not showing anything. Like that, I have created 4 labels: addition, division, multiplication label here, and subtraction label. So 4 labels I have created, but since I defaulted with a blank value for the text, it is not showing anything. Okay. So, but what I did is when the click on the calculate button, okay, I am calculating the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and then I said I am adding the text for that label. Okay. So you are attaching or you are using the text property for that particular label and you are giving some value. Previously it was showing null, but I said addition of 2 numbers, subtraction of 2 numbers, multiplication of 2 numbers, all those 4. I am overloading with some text here. Okay, let's see here. You see here. So 2 values are displaying calculate. Here there are 4 actually different labels are there. Since I made it as a blank, it is not showing anything. Okay, so let me enter some value here. Okay, click on calculate. So these 4 labels previously was containing blank. After calculate, I accept these 2 values. Okay, and did a addition, subtraction, and then I have populated the labels with a new value. So it is showing all 4 now. So you can do multiple times here. You can enter some value one more time, can calculate. Okay. Okay. So simple example with a label, text box, and a button, right? And you can close this. Any questions, guys? It's see, probably to start with, it will be little difficult because you need to understand these properties and the methods, okay, and how to navigate. But it's very easy. Like the front end programming using WinForms is very much easy. You just need some good hands-on. Like you need to understand the different tools and how to navigate that particular the options. I will show you one more. It's more or less similar example, but just okay, here I have 2 labels, width and length, okay, and 2 text boxes and 1 calculate button. You see here you have the form 1, about this form, the rectangle, perimeter, and area, and you have 2 labels, okay, and you have 2 text boxes, 1 button, call button, and you wanted to display the value of area and perimeter. So those right now, those 2 labels I have defined, but you don't see here because the value is blank. area and perimeter. It's there, but since it's blank, it is not showing. Okay, and in the calculate button, I'm accepting those two values from the text boxes. Okay, the text width is the text box, and dot text is the property to get the value. Okay, and I am calculating area and perimeter. Then I am uploading or I'm updating the particular label string value or text value with the perimeter and area. Okay, so the text box dot to text to retrieve the value entered by the user. Okay, and you want to do to update or populate the text for the two labels. Again, you're using the label dot text property, label dot text property, one perimeter, one area. Okay, and you're populating the new value here. Okay, so if you see, so you enter some value, calculate, it shows perimeter and area value. So these are like no simple examples with the label, text box, and buttons, right? So similarly, you have lot many controls are available. It's just that like you need to just start taking one by one and practicing. Okay, so if you see here, I've taken one more. Okay, so this is basically this is called a list. If you see here, right? Okay, you see here, right? So this is called a list box. List means this one, list box. So you can have multiple values here. Okay, if you see here, list, I'm open the properties here. Okay, the name of the list box is city list box. Okay, and I have entered 4 cities, right? That 4 cities. Okay, you have something called collection. Okay, items, the number of items you want to display. Click on here. So I entered 4. Okay, you can enter one more city also. Basically, it's like a you have to choose one city from this drop down kind of thing, right? Okay, so you can type something and it will show here. Okay, and you can just if expand also. So this is a list, and this, what is this actually? Anybody knows this? What do you call this in Windows? This one and this one. What is the difference between these two? Okay, so these called radio buttons. When I say radio buttons, it's kind of the buttons for the radio, right? It will be in circular, right? Just like I mean, if you're familiar with the old uh, radios, you will see this kind of buttons, right? In the circular shape. So with the radio buttons, you can choose only one value. You cannot select more than one. Either here, if I say male or female, you can choose only one option, male or female, only one. And if you click on another one, automatically the first initial selection will go off. And this is called checkbox. Checkbox means, it allows more than one selection also. Okay, if you see here, I selected male here. Okay, then you can select female also. Okay, so you have only one. If you select male, this female will automatically go. So you see right here, it gone. And if you select female, the male will automatically goes off. So only one you can select with the radio buttons. But with the checkbox, you can check as many boxes you wanted to select. Okay, it's not that like you have to check only one. One or two is allowed. Okay, so I just written some code right here, city list box. So whenever you change the value or whenever you pick up the particular list item, okay, I said like, if you see, then one message is coming, right? That you selected something like that is coming, right? That is because I'm showing a message box. Okay, message box is another class. Okay, show is a method to show the city name you have selected from the list box. So message box dot show city name, right? If you see here, you selected, right? You have changed the index for this list. So you selected Hyderabad because I said message box dot show and show the value which has been selected by the user. So Calcutta, right? So similarly, so basically like, so now you know the message box also, right? Let me show you do I have anything? Okay, so few more things guys here. So here by default, this is the launching program.cs, right? Right? Because this is where the static void main method is there. Okay. So since you have a form attached to your program, okay, so some kind of like, code is already available written by the framework. Okay, it says like, application enable visual styles, some default values, and it will say run the form. Since you have this is already included, when you launch the program, the form is getting visible because you said application dot run the form. Okay, and here the designer, okay, the code, right, whatever the code is there, right, that is available in this. Okay, here in this, whatever the code is there, right, you can see the code here for the form1.designer. Okay, and if you wanted to see the particular code for that methods or for that particular components, you can see the code here. You go to the design section and you click on this. Okay, it will show like, whatever you wanted to write here. Okay, so here let me see if I have written anything for the message boxes. Okay, message box is there, right? Okay. Okay, so here, okay, I have written one message box. You see here, message dot box. I said, and you see this is basically when the button one dot click event. When you click on the button one, I'm saying like, display a message box. Welcome to WinForms programming. Okay, this is the text you wanted to display. Okay, and the message header, message title is Windows Forms, and you're saying, I wanted to have two different buttons, yes or no. Okay, you see here, welcome to WinForms programming, WinForms with the C++, C hash, then the yes or no. If you see here, okay, you see here, this is the text, welcome to WinForms programming, and the title is WinForms with the C hash, then yes or no. So this three, right? If you see here, see in the message dot box, this is the text you wanted to display, and the message title is WinForms with C hash. Then you said you wanted to keep yes or no buttons. Okay, and once, okay, basically, I am whatever the value or whatever the button clicked by the user, I'm storing that value in the selected variable. And if that guy selected yes button, I'm just writing one more message box display. You clicked on yes button, you clicked on no button. So basically, the value whatever is coming from the message box, that is storing in a selected. So it can be only two values, either yes or no buttons, right? So if it is yes button, do something display. If it is else, do something. So see here, I hated welcome. See the string or the text you wanted to display and the title of the message box. When I click on yes, you click on yes button. That's what I mentioned, right? When I click on no, click on no button. So some kind of programming, right? So just look at this, like, if in general, if you want to build this kind of forms using any programming language, it is way too much. You need a lot of time and effort. Okay, but here using Windows Forms, within no time, you are able to design a UI with all the desired controls, labels, text boxes, command buttons, right? And the list box, radio buttons, checkbox. So you have lot many options available. So that's why, Windows Forms are called rapid application development. You can build the application very rapidly. Okay. You just need, you see, like, how many programs we have written, just drag and drop the required controls, add some, quick and dirty logic, and, your form is ready with at least the basic form is ready with whatever is required, right? So that's why, like, in the Windows based applications, WinForms plays a crucial role. Okay. But nowadays predominantly most of the applications are web based. Okay. And unless, like, because the challenge with this Windows applications is that, like, you have to install this particular executable in your machine, or suppose if 10 people wants to use this application, you have to install this particular application in 10 different client systems. Okay, so previously, because there was no internet, it was limited, very limited internet, so it was, challenge to have web applications. But now if you see, predominantly most of the applications are web based. Okay, so nowadays, like, the usage is very less, unless the application is the older one, still it is being used by the business. But if someone wants to build the new set of applications, normally most of the folks goes for the web based applications where you launch the application using any browsers. Okay, so here, like, see, if you need to take classes on WinForms, it's again a 1 month course. Okay, you have to go through lot many, you have to go through lot many. So you have to go to all these controls. You just go one by one and try to explore. Okay, I have only explained you the most important ones. Okay, which are predominantly we use in day and, every day. Labels, text boxes, buttons, radio button, checkbox, and the control box. Okay, so you can just, I just, started you the basics, and it's up to you, like, how it's just a more of a practice for you guys. Okay, so drag and drop and, try to do some kind of, like, research, just try to play around with the properties and the methods and execute and see the different results. Okay, so with this, I will stop here, but any questions on WinForms today's class? Okay, so what I will do tomorrow, I will start the web-based programming. Like, we can start with the MVC. Okay, and then we'll go through some entity framework also in the next 4 classes. Okay, guys, any questions before we wrap up for the day? Vamshi, Lalichand.
No.
Okay, fair enough. So, I will upload the recording. Thank you very much, and we'll meet tomorrow same time.
Okay, bye.